Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, if you're a business owner and you're thinking about selling your business in the next few years, and you're not going to want to miss this next segment, we're going to be speaking to a national expert just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
I'm sure you've heard the term silver tsunami. That's happening across the country right now. Baby boomers are retiring, and many of them are business owners. And as much as they want their kids to take over the business, sometimes the kid's not interested in what mom or dad does. And so now they're in a crisis. And a good friend of mine, a client, Scott Bushkie, is in the studio. He's with Cornerstone Business Services. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you in the studio because we worked together for a couple of months now, and I've been so impressed with your radio and television prowess. But you just finished a research report.
We did.
That is groundbreaking.
It is.
So tell us about the report.
Yeah, we found, I've been doing this for 27 years, helping people sell their companies in the low middle market space. And it was just amazing to me that these business owners were so good at starting, building, and growing companies, but they were so bad at selling companies that only 20 to 30% successfully sold. And I'm like, there's got to be a reason for that. So I've just been obsessed with that for 27 years. And we finally hired a firm to go out and talk to 750 companies out there all throughout the nation. Had to be at least $5 million in revenue to get in. So usually between 5 and 100 million in revenue, spread equally throughout that. And had to do, and business owners that were 45 to 75 in age. So that's what we really wanted to go out. And the whole mindset was to learn what is the mindset of a business owner around selling their company, buying, when are they going to get out of their company? Who are they going to trust? How are they going to do it? How have they valued their largest asset so far? Have they valued it? And what we found was really shocking and really lays the underpinning of why business owners are so bad and have so bad results of only 20 to 30% of businesses successfully sell. And that's why we're trying to do and make that a better result.
And that's crazy. So if they can't sell, do they just shut it down? Is that what
a lot of them do? Yeah. And you think of how many businesses. I grew up in a town in Wisconsin of 3,200 people. So if somebody shut down a 30 employee firm,
right?
Where are those people going to go? They got to pull their kids out of school, go to a different school district. It just uproots the whole company or whole family. And that's what we're trying to figure out is how can they help them transition that business successfully to the next, could be the next generation, could be to another business, a private equity firm, whatever it might be, but typically selling to a third party.
Okay, he has a page on his website dedicated to this. We're going to go ahead and show the page and scroll down because you have a number of statistics. And I know that as you took on this project, even you were surprised by some of the numbers. So rattle off a few.
Yeah, I mean, some of the numbers that were just shocking. When we asked these business owners, how many are going to get out? 48% said they're getting out the next 3 years.
Wow.
3 years or less. So you think about how many boomers are out there, how many Gen X, and almost half are going to get out the next 3 years. And then we looked at, how many of this is their largest asset. So, your house, your cars, your everything. You would think, well, my largest asset, I know for sure what that's worth because that's my biggest part of my net worth.
Yes.
Over 60% had never done a fair market analysis. Wow. They had no idea, not just ever, but even even less would have done in the last 2 to 3 years, which is best practices to understand what the company is and where you need to take it to live your ideal lifestyle. Others, 49% had to sell their company in order to live the ideal lifestyle or retire the way they wanted to. So you think about the pressures on, they've been in business for 30, 40, 50 years, and they still have to sell the company just to be able to live the ideal lifestyle or all the goals that they had in their head. Yes. And, the list just goes on. And other one that really was surprising is when we looked at, because all I do is sell companies. For the last 27 years, I sell companies. So I'm thinking, we asked the question of how did you get into business? Thinking, maybe 20, 25% had bought it from a third party.
No.
3%.
Is that right?
3% bought it from a third party, 5% from their employer, but the majority, 76%, founded the company.
Wow.
60% inherited it from their family. So when you look at 92%, we're never the buyer buying a company and know what to expect of how this transaction works and how it all plays out. And make matters worse is when you found something, when you birth something, it's your baby. You're extremely tied to it. 65% said, I am deeply emotionally tied to my company. And like 35% said, I couldn't even imagine not being a business owner. Like they couldn't even fathom not owning their company anymore. So you get all this. They've never done it before. 90+% never did it before. They've founded the company, so they're emotionally tied. They don't know what it's worth. And oh, by the way, they've never done it before. And they're going up against private equity, corporate development teams that have, I was just running a panel and we asked private equity, how many deals do you look at? How many offers do you put in? And how many do you actually buy? And the averages were like looking at 3,000 deals, putting in 100 to 200 offers and buying 5.
Incredible.
And as a business owner, you get one chance, one at bat.
Wow. So
when you think of all those things in the mindset, and one of the biggest questions was, what is your mindset around selling your business? And the number one answer, I plan on selling my business when I'm mentally and or physically unable to continue.
Unacceptable.
Not a great answer.
No.
Not a great answer. All you're leaving, what should be this unbelievable milestone in your life and career for your family, turns into this nightmare and mess that you hold on too long. Something bad happens to you, and all of a sudden now the business crumbles, and now your spouse is sitting there going, oh my gosh, I just lost my spouse. The kid just lost their mom or dad, and now their one single source of income, a house of cards crumbling to the ground.
All right, Scott, share with us one of your favorite success stories.
Yeah, one of our favorite success stories was I got called in by a trusted advisor to a client, and they were thinking about selling their company. They had 2 buyers ready at the table, but they weren't quite sure, if there was more buyers out there, and they weren't sure what they were going to do. So on a Friday, we met. They said, yep, we want to work with Cornerstone. We already had the interview to start telling the story and putting together the book or the sim on Tuesday. But from Friday at 5 till Sunday at 2 o'clock, they got really smart and decided, you know what, we already have the 2 biggest buyers in the industry. We've known that we've been in this industry for 40 years. Why do we need an investment bank? Why do we need Cornerstone? And it's like, okay, well, I can't force you to work with us. But they said, we still want you to do a fair market analysis just so we can understand what you believe the market is for a company like ours. So I said, fine. First offer came in. It was $31 million, 26 at close, 5 in a seller note over 5 years, and then possibly another 5 in an earnout. So maybe up to 36, but it really was a $31 million offer. And then we came in about 4 days later and said, oh, we think the market value is $43.3 million. Like, yeah, but that was the second biggest buyer. We've got the biggest buyer now coming in. They're amazing. They've taken us out for dinner twice, 2 beautiful dinners, told us how great we are, all the synergies, how we are going to just take over the world together. The next week they came in at $25 million.
Wow.
And I said, can we please go to market? Can we please go and run our process? And they said, fine, go to market. 8 days later, 8 days, because we had to move very fast because we wanted to keep those 2 buyers warm. We didn't want them to go away in case that was the best offer out there. We called the owner and said, we think we got a good deal for you. Think one that you're going to like. And they said, well, did you get the 43? You're like, no, we didn't get 43. Would you at least get high 30s? Because, we had one at 31 and maybe 36. At high 30s, more cash to close. That'd be good. I said, no, we're not in the 30s. She's like, what did you get? I said, $51.3 million.
Unbelievable.
$51.3 million. So, and the odds, this is even the best part about the story, is that same group came to them 9 months early and said, we want to buy your company. And they said, well, we're thinking about selling. And they said, we love your company. We see all the synergies, but our private equity firm, we have a written mandate. It's not like we can't pay more or we don't want to. We can't pay more than a 5 multiple. So without us, individual offers, 1 offer at a time, 25, 30, 31. Creating what we call POMO, or the power of multiple offers, bringing multiple buyers together at one time, $51.3 million.
Incredible. You wrote a best-selling book. It's called Finish Strong, and we're going to put this up on the screen. Tell us about the book. What are some takeaways?
Yeah, so there's different books out there about how to drive value and how to sell the business and steps. And I wanted to take a more holistic approach. So it really is a holistic approach, and it's not just the book, because what I've learned, number one, it's an easy read. It's a short read. It's an easy read. But number 2 is what I found with business owners is they'll read something, go, oh, I got a handful of good ideas. They'll put it down, and then they'll never go back to it again.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you've got some good ideas, but you didn't implement them at all, and that's not bringing any value. So I also wrote this workbook that's it's just a Finish Strong workbook that you can find on Amazon. And that after each chapter, now you go do a little homework. Read a chapter, do a little homework. It could be a short exercise, could be a couple reflective questions, but it's something that helps the business owner take small, easy, actual steps to their eventual exit, where you're 10 days away, 10 months away, 10 years away. So it looks at, when do you want to get out?
Yes.
If you ask any entrepreneur, when do you want to get out of business? Oh, I'm thinking about selling in 5 years. 2 years later, when do you want to get out? 5 years. Because it's far enough away that they don't have to do anything yet, but it's close enough that them and their spouse kind of get excited that, oh, we're getting close, we're getting to the end.
Right.
So put a flag, put a stake in the ground. I don't care when it is. Could be 17 years from now, but then start working towards that 17 years or 5 years. Usually it's 5 years or less. What's important to you in a sale? There's 3 reasons that business owners typically, if they can sell their business at all, again, only 20 to 30% sell. If they even do sell, they have remorse. Number one is the story I told. They take an unsolicited offer and find out that they have not just millions, probably tens of millions of dollars on the table.
Wow.
Number 2 is they only think about, in the heat of the moment, they only think about value. Everybody talks about numbers and value and value. Well, there's also a lot of other deal terms. What about my legacy of my company? What about protecting my employees? What about the culture of the company?
Right.
Do I get to leave in 6 months, or I have to stay for 5 years? All these other deal points. And what I've seen is people will sell, take the highest amount of money, and then go, oh man, the culture sucks over there now, and I feel terrible that I picked that buyer. But I had extra $1 million, but now the culture is terrible. So maybe you take the second highest offer, but a better culture fit or something that's just you just like better. And so finding out those deal points. And then the third is they sell their company and they have no idea what they're going to do next.
Wow.
All their identity, all their value, all their self-worth was all tied up in the company. And they've always wanted, man, I've been working so hard. I want to relax. I want to do this. And now they've got, all the money in the world, and the money can work for them, and they can do anything they want. And they go, well, why isn't my phone ringing? Why am I not getting any calls? Why am I not getting invited to that nonprofit thing?
Right.
And so in the book, it talks about, what are you going to do next? What's on that bucket list that you haven't accomplished, Jeff, that you want to accomplish because of the business?
Yes.
What, almost like writing, what do you want to be known for? Almost like writing your eulogy. At the end of the day,
Yes.
when you're hanging it up, what do you want people to say? You want to say that, boy, Jeff was the best business owner in the world, or he also was a great dad and grandpa and all these other cool things. And again, there's 0 right or wrong answers.
Right.
But think about it, because you only have time. And once you wait too long, there's things you can't do anymore. And then it gets into other things like, just because we sell companies, that's not the only reason that you should only option. We have 9 different options in the book and of all the pros and cons. So just understanding what are all your options. In the survey, 43% of business owners, and again, these are $50, $70 million companies, didn't even have adequate knowledge to all their exit options.
No kidding.
So they're making decisions. Well, I'm going to give it to my kids. I'm going to sell it to the competitor.
Yeah.
Those might be the 2 worst decisions you could make.
Wow.
With all the other 7 options out there and then all the combinations of the different options. Yes. So it's a holistic approach of, when am I going to get out? What's important to me? What are all my pros and cons of all the different exit options? What do I want to do after the sale? And then there's the value drivers and short-term and long-term things they can do, and then just bring it all together and tracking their financials and things like that. But it's really a great tool for owners that are, 6 months to 5 years away to really start thinking about,
Yes.
what does the end look like?
Scott has been all over the news in the last couple of months. We found one clip. I think this is Cincinnati. Let's go ahead and roll a bit of this.
News Radio 700 WLW.
And Rock, it only goes to follow that people of my age, boomers, if you will, are gradually transitioning out of the workplace and out of the business place and selling their business.
So right now, 41% of all U.S. businesses are owned by baby boomers, okay? 34 small to mid-sized businesses, okay? 34 million small to mid-sized businesses in the U.S., 12 million small to mid-sized enterprises that are owned by boomers. So as these folks are now getting in their mid-60s, early 70s, and are retiring and wanting to kind of hang it up, what happens to these businesses? What happens to the wealth that they have created and that they still have? Do they get passed on? Do they go defunct? And where does this leave us moving forward?
Well, let's talk to a fellow who can help us out with that. It's Scott Bushkie. We've had him on before with us. Great guest, a business strategist, CEO of Cornerstone Business Service, also an author. Finish strong, sell your business on your terms. Scott, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Good to be back.
So, Scott, you heard what Rocky was saying there. This so-called silver tsunami. How big of a generational thing is this? Is it just, us always wanting to talk about something, or is it a real thing?
Yeah, it seems like we've been talking about it in the M&A community for a lot of years, but it feels like it's starting to hit now. We all know the numbers of baby boomers and how they've, have changed the trends as they've gotten, through the different generations. And now they're at an age where, like you said, the youngest is, I think, 61, and the oldest is 79 right now, and they're in the retirement age, and they're going, hey, they got to exit or get out somehow, whether it's, selling the business, transitioning to their kids or their employees or an ESOP or something. But, unfortunately, too many of them just don't know what to do, and they're sitting there, kind of stuck in the day-to-day and not sure exactly how to get out.
Okay, you mentioned earlier in this broadcast multiple offers are really critical.
Yeah.
Talk more about that.
Yeah, it's the only way that a business owner is ever going to have the leverage and have the market forces going in their direction as a seller. Because you think about it again, they've never sold before. They don't know what they're doing. And I liken it to an analogy. Think if you're a really good tennis player. You're the best tennis player in the world. Everything you do, you win everything. You've got that confidence. And then I take you out to my country club and you go, hey, you start chatting up with the club pro, and how hard could golf be? I've never golfed before. You've never golfed before in your life, but how hard could it be? Tennis, you won everything you played. So the club pro's like, let's go play 18. And that club pro, all they've done is play golf all their life. They know where every creek is, where every pond is, where every sand trap is. They know right where to place the ball. Who's going to win? Club pro is going to win every single time.
Yes.
Well, that's what happens when you just have one offer and you're trying to do it yourself. You've got one buyer. They've got all the control. They've been doing this for decades. They've got a whole team behind them.
Yes.
Really smart people at all kinds of degrees. And you're just going, I'm really good at what I do. I'm really great at running my business. But running a business and selling a business are two completely different traits and systems. In fact, what makes you a great business owner, as we said, makes you a bad seller. So, thinking of that golfer analogy of, I would never go out and play golf against the club pro if I've never golfed before. Well, then why would you risk it with your largest single financial transaction of your life?
Yeah. Okay, so when you have a kind of a naive seller, are they offering you 50 cents on the dollar? I mean, what is a typical offer to
the buyer is trying to get it as cheap as humanly possible. If they can pick it up for 10 cents on the dollar, they're a rock star. So they'll take it for it. They will get it for the lowest. Their job is to buy it for not only as low as possible, but put as much risk on the seller that if things don't work out, the seller takes a hit. We don't take a hit as the buyer.
And I think bringing you in takes out the emotion. I mean, this is their baby. They raised it since it was a newborn, and it might be an adult. When you have a guy like you coming in who really knows what the market, a fair price is, you can say, guys, that's a non-starter.
Right. Well, and that's the power of multiple offers. That POMO again is that and the ingredients are, you tell the right story, which we have a whole team that does that. You've got a research team that researches who are the right buyers. You tell the right story to the right group of buyers. You create a process where there's no asking price, so you're setting no ceiling. You're creating urgency and scarcity, and you create competition. And that is the only way you will ever know what the true value of your company is, because there's no cap. All the buyers at the table fighting for it. There's offensive, defensive moves, and that's what's exciting. Like the story I gave before. They would have paid $30 million. They would have got an offer for 30, 35 and said that's market, because one-on-one, that's what the buyers were willing to pay. Only when I created the power of multiple offers that defensively they said, oh, shoot, we can't let them come in. We're going up from a 5 to an 8.25 multiple.
Okay, so Scott, in the minute we have left, if somebody's watching this broadcast and they say, I think I need to contact Scott, what does the process look like? They can contact you through the website.
Yes.
And then you have a discovery session?
We do. It's a free discovery session. There's no cost to it. It's confidential because everybody's worried about, I don't want my employees, my competitors, my customers find out. No one should ever find out that you're thinking about selling your company. We make sure that's one of our jobs is to keep it confidential. No cost, confidential, no obligation. And just we take about a half an hour and learn about you and the company, what your goals are. And then their time we take, and there's no question off limits. I just had lunch with someone before I came here. I said, there's not a question that's off limits. So we're talking about the market. We're talking about their industry. We're talking about how to drive values, timing, all those things that they had questions on. And then we see where it goes from there. Most people will move into a fair market analysis to say, hey, let's at least learn what my business is worth. And then they can start making the right decision. Because if you don't know what your company's worth, you don't know what the net number is, you don't know what we call in the book the lifestyle number of what you need to live your ideal lifestyle, you can't make a well-informed decision because you have no idea what it's going to mean for you and your family.
Wow. Scott, thank you for sharing your heart and your wisdom with us. We're going to end with his website, which is cornerstone-business.com. The great Scott Bushkie. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.